actually, I misspoke earlier. It could be a half an inch. So you're looking at, for the Paisan, a third of an inch to a half an inch. Consistency is really what's most important. And then continue to finish the Paisan by cutting again a third of an inch, creating a flat square. So we started with the 1/8 of an inch plank, and then we cut it into 1/3 of an inch, and then turned it once more, and finished the cut with, again, another 1/3 of an inch measurement, which yields this little diamond shape that is flat, perfectly square. And very consistent in thickness. Again, that's going to ensure that it cooks all at the same rate. Right? You could get a really beautiful saute using the Paisan or the Fermier cut. And voila. Hello, students. It's me once again, Chef Derek. I'm here to show you the onion cuts. The onion cuts are very important. One of the most ubiquitous ingredients in all of cooking is the onion. It's in practically, I don't know, I'd say 75% of recipes. And they're going to really expect you to be good as far as your onion fabrication when you get to work. So this is a key element, and that's why we teach it here. It's a tricky vegetable to cut because of its layered construction, you know, and we'll get into it now. The first cut is the dice. There are, again, small dice, medium dice, and large dice, just like with the potatoes or any other solid vegetable or tuber. And our first move is to make sure our knife, again, is very sharp. Sit the onion on the board and take off the root end. Some chefs only take off one root end. I like to take them both off because eventually you will have to do so. So I take both root ends off, like that, both root ends, and then we're going to flip it up, facing you. So now you have one open end facing you. We would then take our knives and slice directly in the middle in half. We have two sides that look like that. At this point, I like to peel. I think it's easier to peel once you have it cut, as opposed to using a paring knife to peel it whole. Now, of course, if we were doing onion rings and we needed to keep the onion whole, we would peel it traditionally. So see, pretty easy to peel once you have it cut. So we have these two sides. We'll take the sides and we shall, the onion basically, let's talk about the construction of the onion. It's basically, you have lines, right, running vertically this way. And that's the grain of the onion. You know, just like meat has grains, the onion has grains. So these are running vertically. We're going to face them horizontal to you or perpendicular to you to begin the cut. Go ahead and take our knives and start here. Make sure that you have a flat hand so that if this knife slips and goes all the way through, it won't cut you. And I take it in like so. I'm going only about 90% through the onion, not all the way through. If I go all the way through, then the onion will start to fall apart. This is for the small dice. The small dice, I will make 3 incisions, equal length and equal width. Like so. You see what we have left here. 1, 2, 3 incisions. And you'll notice that each incision is about 1/4 of an inch in width, apart from one another. Because the dice that we're going to finally produce, we want it to be about 1/4 of an inch, which is the traditional small dice. Once we have those 3 horizontal slices, We then turn the onion so that the grains are now facing us, no longer perpendicular to us, but facing us. And we will start, again, cutting only about 90% through the onion in intervals of 1/4 of an inch. We're making slices through. And the tip of my blade is only going about 90% through the onion. So now I've cut it in 2 ways. I've done these cuts here. I've then turned it toward myself. And now I've made these cuts with the grain of the onion. Now to complete the dice, I need to turn this back to its original position, which is perpendicular to us, so that the grains are running to the side. I am now going to let my knife really do the work. I'm going to let the blade start to slide through. And again, like any of the dice, 3 dimensions, all equal. So our first slices were 1/4 of an inch apart. Then we turned it this way and we did 1/4 of an inch cuts. And now we're coming back this way, and again, we are doing 1/4 of an inch slices across. So this onion, although cut quite considerably at this point, is still intact. You see that? We don't want it because we left that end intact. We didn't cut all the way through. And you see as I come through this onion, the small dice just peels off my knife. Once we get down here to where it starts to become thin and unstable, we'll do the tunnel method, where you pinch with your thumb and your index finger, and the knife goes in between, and you can get maybe one more cut out of that. Okay? And what we're left with, our product, the end of the onion is always kind of a quandary what to do with. But you can go ahead and cut 1/4 of an inch around like that half circle of the onion. But you're going to get pieces that will cook consistently, but they're not going to be as pretty because it's just, it's the way the onion is. It's the end of it. But most chefs will want you to go ahead, flatten out the onion, that little bit that's left, and go around 1/4 of an inch apart from one another, like so. And that will cook at the exact same rate. It just won't be quite as attractive as our perfect little squares over here. And you'll examine small dice. Very consistent. Okay, for the medium dice, again, we're going to start lines perpendicular to ourselves. For the medium dice, we're only going to make 2 of these horizontal incisions, then turn the onion so that the grains are facing us. And for the medium dice, we're going to do 1/2 an inch. 90% through the onion. Then turn it back horizontal, and again 1/2 an inch to complete the cut. And we can come around 1/2 an inch with that last remaining bit. Put this side by side, the small, and you can see the difference. And again, if you examine this closely and break it up, what do we have? We have little 1/2 inch squares, or medium dice with the onion. Finally, the large dice. just one horizontal cut. 3/4 of an inch spacing, 90% through the onion. And again, 3/4 of an inch. And there is the large dice. And we can finish it up in the same fashion, 3/4 of an inch. And immediately you'll see the difference. And we have 3/4 of an inch squares. Consistency. It really is the name of the game here with the onions. You have the small, medium, and large dice onion. The next two important cuts are the slice and the julienne. We're going to start in the same fashion by cutting the root ends off, slicing down the middle of the onion, peeling, making sure that we get all of the membrane. This membrane does not cook, so it's important that we get it off. Very simple cuts. The slice is across the grain. Whatever width slice you're doing, make sure that it is consistent. Again, use the tunnel method here. And slices. Okay. What you would commonly see on maybe a burger, right, or a sandwich. And they'll come out with, it'll be half rings, half moons, if you will, kind of in descending size, from larger to bigger, or bigger to smaller, like that, okay? The julienne is cut 1/8 of an inch slices, or cuts in this manner, in this case, with the grain. So that's the distinction between the slice, which is across the grain and gives you that type of a look, or the julienne, which is with the grain. Once you get to this point with the julienne, instead of using the tunnel method, simply turn it, flip it down. So it was up, we came through until it was too thin to cut any further, we'll flip it over and continue. Voila. Beautiful cut. And that's the julienne. And if you examine it closely, we have long 1/8 of an inch strips, all consistent in size and length when we cut it lengthwise or with the grain. With the grain, julienne, against the grain.